What if you treated your creativity as part of your purpose, not separate from it? Sit with that for a second. Today's episode is called Finding Your Purpose Without Losing Your Creativity, because when you have purpose, you have direction that guides you. You have direction towards intention in your relationships, communities, and systems within and for our planet. Welcome to Earthly Bonds. I'm Ryn Delpapa, a Neuroarts tech founder, arts and health professional, and host of this show. Earthly Bonds podcast, the Loving Planet Dialogue. It's a monthly multimedia series that explores health from brains to biosphere for creative, resilient living. This podcast is an initiative supported in part by the Changemaker Exchange as part of their 2025 Changemakers for the Planet program. And I'm honored to be in that community as a previous fellow. Today is episode 1 of a 12 episode journey, starting with you, the individual at the heart of it all. You're listening to a show about what happens when neuroscience, art, and ecology sit at the same table and actually talk to each other. So here's the question I want us to explore. What if you treated your creativity as part of your purpose, not in opposition to it? Sit with that for a second, because today's episode is called Finding Your Purpose Without Losing Your Creativity. Because when we have purpose, we have direction that guides us, direction towards intention in our relationships, communities, and systems within and for the planet. And before we go any further, a quick but really important note about what we're doing here today. Earthly Bonds is an educational series exploring health across domains, from neuroscience to earth science, with creative health guiding the way. I'm a science communicator, an arts and health professional, and I am not a licensed therapist, physician, or mental health clinician. Nothing in this podcast is therapy, mental health treatment, or medical advice. If you're experiencing concerns about your mental health or physical health, please reach out to a licensed healthcare professional. Our goal here is learning, curiosity, and exploration together. All right, so let's start in your body for a second. Maybe you woke up this morning, opened your eyes, scrolled past a wildfire, a flood, political chaos, and then tried to answer your emails like nothing happened. You're existing but not thriving. You're persisting and wondering if anything matters at all. And it is hard to think of your purpose when you feel like a backpack filled with pennies and shoes in the washing machine. That cycle is noisy, distracting, and frustrating. Or better yet, your creativity seems like a lost sock, unseen, unheard, or undervalued. So here's something worth noting about how that plays out in life. You repeat it until you begin to zoom out. And because each of us has a different purpose, especially connected to faith, culture, and lived experience, I'm not here to tell you yours, nor am I here to define purpose alone. Because if you're listening or watching to this podcast, then you're already searching for it. What I will do is share tools, research, guidance, stories, and frameworks for finding your purpose and staying creative. Not a fix, just a frame. So here's the big question that we'll explore today. Can you find your purpose without losing your creativity and, dare I say, be profitable, intentional, and impactful? Here's where we're headed together in this episode: investigating purpose, the neuroarts field, creative moonshot frameworks. And as we go, I will leave little pauses, moments to notice what lands for you or what raises questions. This isn't a checklist, it is an invitation for activation, exploration, and experimentation. Exactly why we're here. And at the end of today's episode, I will share how you can get the Creative Moonshot Resource Guide, a free PDF with terminology, reflective prompts on purpose, creativity, affirmations, and a short resource list that explores some of the frameworks, tools, books, and concepts we'll be exploring today. All right, let's get into it. First, let's completely strip away the jargon, because shared language means shared awareness. Purpose has many definitions depending on the subject, but it boils down to why something is done, the need it addresses, an intentional determination or reason for pursuing an action, goal, creation, or outcome. Neuroarts is the field that explores how the arts and aesthetic experiences change the brain, body, and behavior, and how this knowledge can be applied to health and well being across society. This term is defined by the Neuroarts Blueprint Initiative from Johns Hopkins University and a combination of researchers. If you are an artist, then you have most likely already sensed this. If you are somebody who's ever taken an art class, then you have benefited from this field. And if you are a human who's engaged in anything that has inspired a sense of awe or that you thought was beautiful, like most recent Artemis 2 launch, then you've engaged your senses. You've been impacted by neuroarts. It doesn't just mean art, it means something that you find and your brain finds salient, that is engaging, that's awe inspiring, that activates your brain, that's connected to this field and research, that's showing how it's changing your neural circuitry. And the point is that it's not only a powerful field of research, but it's powerful how it can impact all of us passively, actively, directly, and collectively. Now, moonshots, we've recently had one. Moonshots are an ambitious and audacious goal that pushes the boundaries of what is currently possible. The concept draws its inspiration from the famous moon landing of 1969, and in 2026, we're at it again. NASA achieved the seemingly impossible feat of landing humans on the lunar surface. Moonshots require disruptive thinking, cutting edge technology, and a commitment to solving some of the world's most pressing challenges. So, throughout the episode, when I use those terms, that's how I'm approaching them. It's not a literal moonshot yet. Here's the thing though, we really need to understand what creativity means. People immediately ask, are we all creative though? And I have taught in classrooms with students who say that they're simply not creative in art class. I have faced this myself as somebody who's very analytical, loves science, develops technology, and faced a lot of fear in sharing their artwork because I simply didn't believe I was good enough. And that's what it really boils down to when we share something that we've created. Is it enough? We see it as an extension of self. And our all or nothing thinking, which I get because I fall prey to it too, tells us that each creation must equate to some formula. The formula, I believe, must be equated to a masterpiece. Yet it's determined really by our access to creative engagement, our childhood socioeconomic status, our cultural and social dynamics related to creativity, our skills, our practice, our perception, our lived experience. Was art even celebrated in your home? Was art or anything creative accessible? Was art engagement like visiting a museum or taking a class something your family could afford? If we don't see it, we can't be it. If we don't have access to it, we can't know it. And if we don't believe it's possible for us, then we won't even try. Our creativity doesn't need to reach the pinnacles of masterpiece for it to have merit. Instead, we need to revisit the value we put into creativity. In today's current state, the pressure on each of us is to maximize output, and the creative industry not excluded. An industry analysis of how AI use is actually taking place, what is perceived as the infringement on skill sets, workforce, and what is actually being utilized. What you'll notice is there's a creeping into the creative industry. And so when it comes to creativity and when it comes to the dialogues around it, if AI is being utilized to outsource creative processes, is that a detriment to our creative thinking? Which is not only a critical skill for workforce development for all of us, but also for well being, for creative expression, for how we connect different ways and how we work together across spaces, places, countries. So let's explore something. Creative value describes the subjective worth from personal ingenuity and investment that arises when we inject a bit of ourselves, our ingenuity, our individual action into an object, an idea. And I like this definition from Sustainability Director because it doesn't just look at the transactional state of creativity, but talks about care. Care in creation is something that we can leverage to be intentional about technology because when we lose our intention, we let it creep into irresponsible usage, creep into privacy and data security concerns, creep into spaces that are in hindrance to well being. Technology can be used for good, AI for good, responsible technology, and accessible technology. Technology is not negative in its outright or evil, But just like any creation, a creation can do good and it can do. Now imagine looking at yourself. Yes, in the mirror. I literally mean that. Go look in the mirror. Your reflection of creation, a combination of genetics, generational, and cosmological wonders. Almost 50% of your atoms come from the Milky Way. That's what this is. And I'll share the research link if you're interested. Your unique reflection is a creation of nature, the universe, and divine intelligence. If you believe in God, then Ephesians 2:10 states that for we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus so we can do the good things he has planned for us long ago. If you believe in science or both, then your body is a reflection of history's evolution of species with our human lineage specific HLS traits showing our strengths in endurance and development beyond apes. Either way, we are a creation of time and intelligence. So you may still be looking at the mirror. Good on you. But you're a creation. Your self awareness, your self worth, self love, and self perception shape what you are seeing, just like when you put pen to paper and decide to create. If you don't see value in yourself, then why would you see value in anything you create? That's why we need to revisit the value we associate with creativity. Self love and the focus on self development through an art practice will change you. But it's not the focus on the outcome or designing the masterpiece or the output or optimization that changes you. It is the process. It is the care. It is the intentional act of creation. It is the purpose you put into yourself. This episode is about you at the heart of it all. And it's not a statement that I made lightly. If I or you or we want a better world, then we can't ignore our hearts. If we want people to be more honest, integrity driven, loving, empathetic, kind, and purposeful, then we have to model it, be it, lead it. So I'm choosing to share more of me in this episode, while in the future, you'll hear from experts in futurism, health, neuroscience, agriculture, and the arts, to name just a few. You're listening to me ask questions and share more of my personal journeys so that we're starting with truth. We're starting with intentional hearts. We've made our way back to purpose because without it, our creations can be beautiful, but why are we creating them in the first place? I came back to this question a lot this past month, wondering how to provide value to you and others through this podcast and what to say that could start a year of episodes off on a foundation of truth, authenticity, and knowledge sharing. And I reflected on the most pivotal moments in my life that shifted my life trajectory, which is why I wanted to devote this first episode to purpose and creativity. I found my purpose through a curious journey of healing that was guided unknowingly by threading a line of self guided art therapy into my life. I wove together with each scribble, sketch, sculpture, and moment in nature creative resilience that soothes my untreated, undiagnosed complex PTSD and neurodivergence. And I'm sure that my path was also guided by God and other influences. So it is certainly something that I didn't do alone. And many of us still need to connect back to community. Creativity is a reflection of culture, and creativity is a reflection of culture. My practice is connected to spirituality and to God. But I do not want this podcast to be something that you find exclusionary in your own faith practice. So I invite you to think through that lens critically. Use your creative thinking to explore how you've been guided and how you can guide your life purposefully through creativity. And as someone with lived experience in complex mental health, I have often wanted to understand how to heal from it and how to do so for others. I asked why. Why was there so much pain in the world? Why had I experienced so much trauma in childhood? And why can't we heal ourselves and face these challenges better? You don't have to be neurodivergent to ask those questions. You just have to care. And it led me on a curious and creative healing journey from South Africa to China. Yet I still hadn't seen my own value. It wasn't until I began to reevaluate my own pains as stones, shaping my purposeful path for things to shift. It wasn't until I gave myself permission to heal that I began to integrate lessons and feel less like a tumbling mess and more like a purposeful creator in my own life. The purpose came because of my creativity, not despite it. The purpose came because of my own challenges, not hidden behind it. That purpose for you is one more look in the mirror asking yourself the questions you feel called to answer for yourself and others. If you want to explore that, then pause this. Stop listening to me and start listening to you. I'll be here when you're ready to explore what's next. And if you're interested in arts and health, reach out. Welcome back. Now, for me, that question I asked for myself was, how do I heal? How do I stop these trauma patterns? How do I use the things that have been guiding me knowingly and unknowingly? And that was creativity. I wanted to use creativity to understand how to heal myself, to heal us, our communities, and the planet. It is a question that has guided me first unknowingly and then blatantly, stubbornly, and defiantly I have pursued since I was 6. But professionally since 2022. I say that because sometimes when we're overcoming, we're still struggling. We're still figuring it out. We're still just healing. We haven't seen that we're being able to use that pain for purpose. And yet, when we find that, again, as a stone towards a purposeful path, shifting that mindset, shifting from us as a single victim to zooming out to seeing a purposeful lens of a shared challenge that we can address within and for ourselves and for others, that takes a journey to figure out, takes alignment, it takes defiance, and it takes a receptivity to following an unknown path. And I say that because purpose and following it is not without obstacles. It's not like a clap yourself on the back and you're done. You actually have to apply it because in pursuing and facing your own shadows, fears, doubt, limitations, insecurities, then you are facing the ones internally and then externally to you, all while putting one more foot towards the path of purpose. And that purposeful path of being receptive to a new direction is also a reflection, in my opinion, of creative intelligence. It's involving the ability to adapt to changing environments, solving problems in innovative ways, and engaging in divergent thinking. All right, so you've figured out your purpose, right? Well, you're in the process of figuring it out. You understand that there's an element of recognizing the thing that you find the most challenging in your life that can be purposeful if you try to solve it for other people, solve it for yourself. But we may not have the tools, the research, the understanding to truly do this in a way that can still retain our creativity. So, I'm going to share some of the things that have helped me, and I hope that they help you because I think most of us want a more creative, resilient life. We want to be able to have that part of our daily practice. If you're an artist, then you definitely want this. If you're someone who engages in innovation, then creative thinking is powerful. If you're someone who wants to adapt in their work, their career, their communication, being able to express and make different connections through creativity is a powerful way. That all aside, beyond the value, the benefit, the productivity enhancement and flow state, I can go on and on. The field that I found very pivotal and impactful in shifting my life trajectory was neuroaesthetics. You're seeing a timeline of neuroaesthetics. And what I'm highlighting is that it's not a new concept. It's really been part of humanity's evolution, how we've communicated, how we've survived. Cave paintings were used in 40,000 BC to communicate different periods of transition. And then in the 1800s, we started to research how the intersections of art and brain were connecting. 1998 is the first time that the term neuroaesthetic showed up in an actual book. And then in 1999, Samir Ziki popularized the term. 2016, Dr. Anjan Chatterjee and Vartanian connected and created the aesthetic triad as a way of articulating neuroaesthetic experiences and what was happening. And so we have this full evolution from 40,000 BC to 2016, and of course, continuing in ongoing neuroarts research across the globe that is connecting this between neurobiology, neurosustainability, neuroaesthetics, and architecture. The field has really shown how impactful the uses creativity in is in physical spaces and mental spaces across all of our spaces, communities, and practices and research. And it's a powerful one, again, that gives language to what's happening inside of you when you're engaging in art. Like that even further. If you're curious about this field or what's happening for your brain, then read and check out Your Brain on Art by Ivy Ross and Susan Magsamen. That book is a powerful exploration of the field. The cover art is exquisite and it really dives into a lot of what I'm sharing in this initial episode, but also that will happen throughout the next 11, where we're going to break down some of those creative health components into practical guidance. We've talked about purpose. We've understood that sometimes our challenges and pain can be helpful guiding posts for purposeful, intentional, and service oriented actions. And we've learned about the field of neuroarts. That's an opportunity for us to connect back to a framework. This framework is called Creative Moonshots, and you're not seeing it quite yet, but before we do anything that is a massive endeavor of moonshots and applying your purposeful lens and purposeful action, think through, just like any entrepreneur, business, or person trying to address a need. Is this a problem just for me? Or is this a problem that addresses and impacts many? By solving beyond the one to one to the one to many, then we are already thinking in a more system oriented manner. We're already applying how we can be more purposeful to address a shared issue. And so that is something that I started exploring a long time ago with studies in international nutrition and global health at University of Texas at Austin, but also after an existential moment. In 2023, I had one. I was let go from a job and I immediately was questioning, what do I do? I thought I had the dream job. I thought I was pursuing my purpose. I thought I was building something of impact. And I was. But sometimes we're redirected. And in a moment of existential curiosity, like many of us face, I asked ChatGPT, what does the world need? It yielded 7 different areas of interest and impact. And those 7 I mapped to 5 different areas of emotional intelligence and communication. And the reason that I was so curious about those bridges is because when you started to dive into education, why that breaks down, or sustainability, there's often a disconnect between what we're trying to solve, who we're trying to solve it for, how we solve it, how to collaborate. And this goes back to change management, operations, process, and general anything regarding collaboration. But it's also creativity, creative ways of thinking and adapting and injecting a part of yourself into a solution or a challenge that needs to be addressed is part of this global lens. From asking that question in 2023 to mapping to certain areas and understanding the neuroarts field, I started to unravel it even further. And so I'm going to share a creative moonshot framework for anyone in the technology field, anyone who's curious about creating innovation, or simply wanting to understand what I mean. This is the framework. Creative moonshot. For me, I started asking about how can creativity be used for healing in my own personal life. And then that exploration expanded through food access research and community health research back in undergrad, and then continued through technology, education, and many different avenues. And that brought me to planetary health. Planetary health is a way of connecting all of those spheres of health, but on a planet scale. It's talking about how your health is impacted by the air you breathe, the food you eat, the soil. And so that connection between the soil, our food, our air, all of that goes from this body, this mind, this heart, these organs, all of the human physiological and biological components and systems to our external environmental systems. And so those connections between brain, body, behavior, health, environment are something we'll explore further, and other researchers and experts will expand on. Health is a transdisciplinary field that is exploring how our human health is connected to our earth health, our planet health, but also how our behaviors, our actions, our systems are shaping the health of our planet and that connection between them. What better way to connect back to purpose and zoom out from our individual concerns than by looking up, seeing the stars, connecting back to the Milky Way, 50% atoms in us, and saying yes to planetary health. There are so many individuals who care about the planet because in a time when there's so much chaos around us, we often forget that there are people who are creatively working towards shared solutions. We forget that sometimes we are not the only person who feels like we're in a disruptive cycle, or that washing machine where we're the backpack filled with the pennies and the shoes and it's noisy and everything like that. Take a moment and connect with someone to see how they might be exploring their creativity, or connect with someone who's applying innovation. Let's shoot for the moon and do something impactful. So that brings us to the Creative Moonshot Framework. Creative Moonshot Framework is something that I presented as a guest lecturer at Harvard Extension School on behalf of Mike Grandinetti's amazing course called Creativity and Innovation. And in that, I shared more of neuroarts and the fields, but also a framework that you're seeing as well. And this framework really goes into what does the world need? How can we use creativity and technology to address complex systems? And so you'll see there's a ledger on the left side, the color schemes of yellow, blue, pink, and red, and of course, the focus on planetary health. Because planetary health is something that is far more than one person acting alone. And the reason I'm sharing the Creative Moonshot Framework with you is one, because I'm so passionate about how we can use creativity for the planet, but two, because planetary health requires all of us, healthy people, creating more health for others across our shared home. And in the beautiful book, Zen and the Art of Saving the Planet by Thich Nhat Hanh, there's a phrase that speaks to that the planet does not require saving one time, but it requires being saved multiple times. Saving the planet and saving ourselves are interconnected. Our creativity can be purposeful, it can be profitable, it can be intentional and impactful. It's how we use our creativity. Is it caring for ourselves and others? Are we bringing in our pains not as something to hold on to as victims, but as purposeful stones in our path? And how can we be ambitious, shoot for the moon, and create impact in this lifetime? In today's episode, we've gone everywhere from creativity to neuroarts, to planetary health, to purpose, to frameworks, resources, books. And I hope that your curiosity has been piqued and you recognize now that your creativity is not something to hide. It is something to amplify, to utilize. Your pain does not have to be something to carry as a victim, but as a shield to protect others. And when you're ready, reach out. The link will be in the show notes for the Creative Moonshot Guide, as well as on our website, earthlybonds.com. It's an opportunity for you to connect, to learn, to explore, to let us know what you want to hear more from. And we want to thank Changemaker Exchange for enabling this podcast series to take part. Follow Earthly Bonds access guides on our website so that your brain doesn't have to hold all of this on its own. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next month.